Before we jump into today's video, I just want to take a quick second to say thank you guys for allowing me to hit 60,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Hit that number as of this morning that you are watching this video, and it probably means more to me than you can realize. For those of you who have been watching my coverage of the Oppo Find N5 since its release, you probably know the one thing about this device that I feel like holds it back. It is definitely one of the best foldables on the planet, but there's one thing about it that keeps it from being my favorite foldable on the planet. Well, besides the speaker performance, there's one other thing that really holds it back for me, and it's the cameras. It's not that the cameras are bad, it's that the cameras have some strange quirks regarding their processing that I'm just not super fond of. But not only has it been like almost 2 months since this device was released, there have also been quite a few software updates for it that have said that the camera processing has been improved. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to try to answer the question, has Oppo improved the N5's camera? And stay tuned to the end of this because we're not just talking about the processing. There actually is a setting that they have recently added to the device that for me makes the camera a lot more pleasant to use. So first off, if you want to see these photo samples yourself, there will be a link to that in the description down below. It'll take you over to shanecraig.tech and you can see this in much better quality than you will see it here on YouTube. What we're going to be looking at here in this video, let's go full screen, are shots from the Oppo Find N5, shots from the OnePlus Open, and shots from the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. And we're going to be comparing them side by side, one after another. But let me first very quickly tell you what I'm looking for in these photos. The thing that the N5 would do that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. For me, I find that the shots from the Oppo Find N5 look a little over-processed. Darker areas that would be shadows on other phones are boosted to the point that they just aren't shadows anymore. Sharpness is often boosted too far as well, and it almost looks like, to me, you go on some photo editors and there's like a clarity slider or something like that, a pop slider, and they have turned it up to like 11. That's basically what it looks like to me. Now, of course, when you watch videos like MKBHD's blind camera tests, where the brightest, sharpest, poppiest photo tends to win, it makes sense for Oppo to go in that direction. But for me, the photos end up just often looking very, very artificial. So with that out of the way, let's go back over here and we're going to go full screen on each of these photos. And you'll be able to see down here at the bottom what we're looking at. You can see Oppo Find N5 down there, and we're just going to go through them. So this is the first shot from the Oppo Find N5. And I think pretty much everything that I was seeing to begin with appears to still be mostly present. But let's go to the OnePlus Open next, and this is a very different looking shot. Okay, so the OnePlus Open has a physically larger sensor, and the way that they're tuning their photos is completely different. Look at the texture, the detail on the plant here. Some people are going to look at this and they're going to say, well, I can see more detail here than I can here. But the reality is, what's happening is they are boosting, this should be in shadow, they're boosting it to the point that it's no longer in shadow, and it does look like they're just turning up the sharpness, the clarity to an artificial level to me. This looks much closer to reality, much closer to what this plant actually looked like, and also notice the depth of field, the natural bokeh that you are seeing. Look at areas like the tablet in the background, the grain on the table, almost in focus on the Oppo, nice and blurred out on the OnePlus device because it does have a larger sensor and a larger aperture, so you get that nice natural blur. And then the Pixel 9 Pro Fold kind of splits the difference between the two. It does keep some shadows versus Oppo, who just looks like it's just this over-processed, sort of crunchy looking photo for me. Again, you may like it. It doesn't look natural to me. I think that the Pixel is a very neutral photo and it splits the difference between the two. But from this first test, if I'm wondering if they've addressed the things I don't like about this camera, doesn't really seem like they have, but we do have a couple more shots to look at. We'll try to power through these next two a little bit quicker. If we pay attention to the grain, the color on the side of my guitar up here, look at the way that that looks. It just pops, absolutely just pops. If we go to the OnePlus Open, that is not really the case anymore. If we go to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, the color is much more tuned down or toned down versus the other two. And then looking at this last shot and a little bit lower light, pay attention to the way that focus falls off once again as we switch to the OnePlus Open, but also pay attention to Spider-Man himself. Look at how he's lit. The contrast, the clarity, all that stuff. Going to the OnePlus Open, that focus is falling off very naturally. I think Spider-Man looks a lot more natural here as well. The Pixel, honestly, is probably my least favorite of these because everything is in focus. I don't know exactly how this occurred, but pretty much everything is in focus here, and it looks a little bit artificial to me as well. Of the three, I'd probably still taking the Open, but yeah, most of the things that I'm complaining about that maybe you love are still present here on the Oppo Find N5. Now, one thing I've been doing to kind of make this a little bit better is if you go into the settings on the camera app on your Oppo Find N5, there's a section that says preserve settings, and then you're looking for an option in there that says exposure setting, because up there at the top of the screen, you'll see it right there. You can actually change the exposure on this camera like by default, and if it's preserved, every time you open it, that's how it's going to be. And this is kind of what you get. This is default. You can see 0.0. On minus 0.3, it's just a little bit darker. It's not a dramatic change, but it's a little bit darker. And then you can also do minus 0.7 to get things even darker. I feel like this one here, the minus 0.3, is a good middle ground, and it kind of does get some of those shadows back into my shots. So with these updates, have they done anything to shift their tuning, their strategy with how their photos are going to look? From what I can tell, the answer is no. This camera is going to deliver very bright, very sharp photos that look like that clarity dial is turned up to 11. They are trying to win the MKBHD blind camera test, and with these results, they might just do it. To me, the photos look very artificial. To you, they may look fantastic. I'm just presenting the data and giving my opinion on it. You can like what you like, and we are free to disagree. But we have a little bit more to talk about because they have actually added a couple of things to the camera in terms of settings. One I already talked about in the update video where I covered this last update in general, but I'll say it again quickly here. When you go into the macro mode, you now have these two options, natural blur or full clarity. Natural blur was just the default before. Now you have the full clarity mode. Well, what does that do? This is the natural blur mode where you can see in this telephoto macro mode that you have the thing that's in focus and then everything behind it. The focus falls off very naturally. If you go to full clarity, notice how just more of it stays in focus. I like having additional flexibility here. But the thing I teased in the beginning, the setting that they added that really makes things better for me, ladies and gentlemen, finally on the Oppo Find N5, you can double click your power button to launch your camera. This is one of those small things that, like the song goes, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. When I don't have it, I'm like, oh my God, I really, really need this feature. And it's finally here. Let me show you where to find it. So before anybody says it, yes, indeed, before, you could go into your settings on your camera application and you could turn on this quick launch option right down here that says double press either volume button to launch the camera when the screen is off. For me, this was very, very finicky and failed to do anything more often than not. Even when media was not playing, it still was just extremely finicky. But we have a better solution now. Let's jump into our settings, and we're going to scroll down to accessibility and convenience, and then we're going to scroll down until we see power button. Click on that, and you are looking for double press power button. This is a glitch because it's clearly on, but it says that it's off. Let's click on this, let's turn it on, and let's change it to camera. And once that is like that, you can double click that power button, and just like that, you're going to fire up that camera. I do want to give a shout out to these two commenters for showing me where that actually was. Initially, someone on the Discord server, Alpha Burb, found this setting buried in the access card settings, and we both looked around and didn't see it anywhere else, but these two lovely people were able to point me towards the better way to find this setting, so I do appreciate that. So ladies and gentlemen, the camera processing has not really changed at all, but Oppo has added a few more features over the course of the last month and some change that has made the photography experience a little bit better. I still absolutely adore the tele macro. You're probably looking at a photo right now that I would say is one of my favorite photos I've ever taken in my entire life, and it was taken using this phone's tele macro. So even though the processing bugs me a little bit, I have noticed something rather strange. I initially did this write-up and then the subsequent video because I thought that the tuning had been improved, and what was happening was I was just getting used to what I was seeing, and until I did the side-by-side, until I sat there and looked at one and then the other, I just wasn't really experiencing that same shock anymore. When I first got the phone and I took a picture and I looked at it and I thought, that looks a little bright. And then I looked at a comparing photo and I was like, wow, it is really bright. And if you're not doing the side by side, you stop noticing it as much. You just start living your life. And that's probably for the best. And it's probably what I'm going to continue doing. But for those that wanted the data, wanted to know had it changed, there's the answer to that question, guys. Thanks for watching. If you want to help support the channel in a more direct way, click that join button down below, and what's going to happen is, in exchange for $2 per month, you're going to get early access to some video content, and I'm going to be a little bit less reliant on YouTube's ad revenue policies, which are very, very hard sometimes to understand. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.